to stop drinking. I don't drink. I haven't had, alcohol. I don't smoke, any of that.
Okay.
And that clarity and being sober really allowed me to take advantage of opportunities. It allowed me to avoid some of the pitfalls that can occur by drinking. And I realized how difficult it was for people to stop drinking.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey.
The journey.
New sheriff in town, and his name is
The journey.
Journey.
This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. This is the journey.
The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey. The journey. The journey. The journey.
The Journey Initiative is being generously supported by TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Welcome back to The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and today we have a great Memphis icon. But before we go there, we have a great man. In fact, we have the greatest. This quote comes from Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all times. And it goes a little something like this. He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life. What that says to me is that you got to take risks. You got to jump. Or else you'll be too scared and you won't accomplish anything. And today we got a brother who's taken many jumps. He's jumping from South Memphis. He jumped from Hamilton High. He jumped from University of Memphis. He's an entrepreneur, a dad manager, executive, father. He's the incomparable Ernest Strickland.
Thanks for
What's up, brother?
Gotta make the jump, man.
Absolutely. You got to make the jump. So we're going to start back early South Memphis. Tell us about what young Ernest, the household the young Ernest was brought up in.
So I was raised really by three women: my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother.
Okay.
And so my dad was the only son. He has 9 sisters.
Okay.
So a lot of women, have been a part of my life and my experience. And now I have 3 daughters of my own. So I've been around women a long time, man, and it really helped me to, have a different perspective, a balanced perspective. But young Ernest was, in the Claiborne Home Housing Project where one of my grandmothers lived for generations.
Okay.
Interestingly, I didn't know we were poor.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
We had fun, we always had food, lots of food,
Right.
family, very close knit, all the cousins.
Right.
And that was the home house.
Okay.
And then I had another grandmother that lived in Pine Hill.
Okay.
And so I went back and forth between the two, but still South Memphis.
So the household was the 3 ladies, and was it your dad or who else was it? You were the only male in the household?
No. So I floated between 2 grandmothers' homes. So
Right.
one grandmother was working. She lived in South Memphis near South Side.
Okay.
My other grandmother was living in the Claiborne Home Housing Project.
Okay.
And I would go back and forth between both of those households.
And where was Dad during this time?
My dad was working all the time.
Okay.
He was working all the time. He was on the fast track, as a young manager of KFC. And, I hear all these good stories about how my dad was really ahead of his time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who outside of the family, that immediate family, had the biggest impact on young Ernest?
Probably was my aunt.
Okay.
Who was like my mom got pregnant at 17 or so.
Okay.
So I always say I graduated twice. I graduated with her when she walked down the aisle at Southside High School, being pregnant with me, and but her younger sister was the one who really spent a lot of time with me. My mom got sick when she was younger, when I was younger rather, and that made my aunt kind of a default sister, aunt, mom.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time with her.
Right. Shout out to those aunties.
Yeah,
man. Those aunties take good care of us. How different are you from the person you dreamed you would be as a child?
Extremely different.
Really? In what way?
The younger me really didn't have a lot of ambition. I was really just, I was told just stay out of jail.
Right.
Not strive for excellence.
Okay.
And so the bar was very low as I got older. And I remember thinking about this principle. It's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get to heaven.
Right.
So I never wanted any parts of being rich. I only wanted to make $50,000 a year, Larry.
Really?
That was my ceiling. And I didn't want to go beyond that because I felt that I would be rich at that point, and I didn't want any part of that. So that my thermostat was set very low at a young age.
What happened? What made you blow the top off of it? Because you're pretty successful now.
Exposure helped a lot.
Okay.
As I obtained different exposure, being around different people, seeing that, hey, it was more than, living in South Memphis, barely getting by.
Wait a minute, hold on for a quick second. See, once again, we keep hearing it. If they can see it, they can be it. So keep that in mind. Each one of these icons come through and say they were exposed to something. They were exposed to somebody. So I want to make you sure you put a pin on that and make sure you remember that. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As I start, seeing more, I start wanting more.
Okay.
And as I desired more, I knew that I had to up my game, increase my skills in order to obtain those things that I now wanted.
Fantastic. When did you know you were going to be okay? At what point in your life did you say, I can do this thing?
I always consider myself a late bloomer. I consider myself a late bloomer, always super talented, but just didn't have that drive. And, my thermostat was set very low.
Right.
When I got into a business setting and I started my own company, I found myself as being the one that people would always go to.
Right.
And even if I'm the new guy in a situation, people always look to me for leadership. Once I started to really hone my skills, I felt confident in being able to be in any environment. I know that I can figure a way out and make sure that things are okay just because of the skills and the confidence that I have in my abilities now. So I was probably 28 when I really, got to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay.
In college, what made you decide to go the route of college as opposed to any other route?
Yeah, so college wasn't something that I was planning on doing or attending. I tell the story all the time. I had a good friend. I was visiting him. We were in high school. His mom, they lived in Twinkletown. So they were my rich friends to me. And I would go over there, and his mom was getting his application ready for Jackson State. And she asked me what was I planning to do, post high school. I told her, I said, well, I'll probably just hang out. And she said, well, I have an extra application. And she filled out my application, my financial aid, and I went to Jackson State with my friend. But I had no desire or plans of attending college. Oh my goodness. And so from there, went to Jackson State for one semester, called home crying to my aunties and telling them like, I don't have a car, I don't have this. They came and got me out of love, but they really shouldn't have came and got me. Should have, made me tough it out. Then I went to Lemoyne for one semester. That wasn't working. And I went and said, hey, I need a job. And I found the police service technician, the PST. Oh, my goodness. They hired me as a PST. And I worked there. I really grew up on the police department, to be honest.
Got last question of this segment. Every brother that's sat in that chair, they always tell us of the moment they realized they were black. Now, it might have been a black child, might have been a black young adult, maybe a black man. For you, when did you realize you were a black man? Hold on real quick. Take a breath. We're going to be right back on the journey where Brother Ernest is going to share with us when he realized he was a brother. Stay right there. We'll be right back. KUDZUKIAN.
out all your KUDZUKIAN favorites now.
Welcome back to The Journey. I'm your host, Larry Robinson, and I told you, we're going to have good ones. We're going to have great Memphis icons each and every time. And today is not like any other day. We have Brother Ernest Strickland.
Yes, sir.
Ernest, President, CEO of the BBA.
Right. The
Black Business Association of Memphis. Before we left, we asked you about the moment you realized you were a black man. Tell us that moment.
Yeah, it was really an interesting question. Made me think. I hadn't thought about that. But it really, what came to mind was when I transferred from Georgia Avenue Elementary School in half of the fourth grade.
Okay.
So I'm in South Memphis all my life, attending Georgia Avenue over near BTW.
Right.
I started going to school from my mom's mom, my other grandparents' home, and I transferred to Willow Oaks.
Okay.
And Willow Oaks was predominantly white at the time.
Okay.
And I realized I was black because the lessons changed. And the advice and the insight from my mom and my family. It went from, have fun, be careful, to, more race-related advice, like don't be touching them white girls.
Oh, wow.
Or, don't have your hand on the white children, and things of that nature. They were coming from a different type of concern.
Okay. Okay.
And so that's when really it was, impressed upon me that, okay, there's a difference.
Right. Right. Tell us about some fond memories back during that time in South Memphis. You were growing up, riding bikes, partners that you hung out with.
Right.
Tell us about it.
I used to love being in the projects.
What about the projects excited you?
Never a dull moment. It was never a dull moment.
Okay.
It was a walkable community.
Right.
Swimming pools, basketball. I wanted to attend Porter Junior High School.
Right.
They closed it down.
Right.
And it just really, I had no idea that affluence was all around.
Right.
My world was so small, and the people who I came in contact with, we were all, in an impoverished environment that we didn't even realize it.
Right.
And so it just goes to show you how much love and support can transcend.
Right.
Even in impoverished environments. Like you still can have love, still can have family.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because I can remember when I was growing up, I didn't realize we were poor. I had no idea. But when you look back, you're like, wow, these rooms in this house are pretty small. Right. So in your teen years, you went from Willow Oaks. You going to high school. How'd you come back to Hamilton?
So I went from Willow Oaks to Wooddale Junior High.
Okay.
And you're talking to Mr. Wooddale. Okay, I was Mr. Wooddale.
Oh, hell.
Back in the day.
Mr. Wooddale.
Back in the day, man. So I played basketball for Wooddale.
Okay.
I wasn't always short, Larry. I just stopped growing. I got off to a good start, and I was, a decent size, 7th, 8th
middle
grade.
school center.
Yeah, middle school center, man. I just stopped growing. So that ended my basketball career.
I hear you.
But I went from Wooddale to Southside for a year, and Southside was a different place.
I imagine.
That's when I started seeing the effects of not just drug use, but drug dealing.
Right.
I saw a lot of guys who grew up with me who were selling drugs, and they had nice things. They had shoes, they had cars, but God always had his arms around me. Even drug dealers used to come to me and say, what do you need? We don't want you to even think about this life.
Why do you think that is? Why would they single you out and say, hey, man, this ain't for you?
I don't know, man. It was just something about, I always hung around older guys. They always took a liking to me.
Right.
And I have two sisters. I don't have a brother.
Right.
But the guys in my neighborhood, they were really big brothers to me. Whether they were doing right or wrong,
right,
they always did right by me.
When the last time you took a butt whooping, literally or figuratively?
Literally was probably around 6th grade.
Okay.
When I broke the window. My mom wouldn't let me go swimming, and I was trying to get her attention, so I was banging on the window, not to break it, but I got a little aggressive,
right,
and broke the window. And so she came back in the house and took care of her
Some
business.
attitude adjustment.
That was the last one. I was like 6th grade. Yeah.
All right. What role did Memphis play in your maturation? How is as an adult, successful adult, what role is Memphis playing?
As an adult is when I really came to appreciate Memphis.
Why?
Because I think that this is a special place. You hear all the time, if you can make it in Memphis, you can make it anywhere. Well, what that says is we're talented.
Right.
We're skilled. And oftentimes creativity, innovation, it comes from empathy. And empathy oftentimes derives from being in impoverished situations.
Right.
And so we have a lot of that.
Right.
Now, how do we transition and transfer our, poverty base into more ingenuity, innovation, and creativity?
Right.
But yeah, this city has been, and I've traveled all over the world.
Right.
And so by being in a position to be able to travel, I appreciate the city that we have here more. And I feel like I can contribute here.
Okay.
In places like DC, New York, I may be in long line,
right,
and maybe the wrong line. But in Memphis, I know the right line. I'm in the front of the line because I've been patiently moving up, over the years. And now I'm at a point where I know that I can contribute. So I'm in love with the city.
Any life experiences where you look back and say, man, I wish I could have a mulligan on that. I wish I could have a do-over.
I wish I wouldn't have been so cautious.
Okay.
And be more of a risk taker. You mentioned about the importance of taking risks early.
Right.
Because you have time to recover.
Right.
Not stupid risks where you're endangering yourself or endangering someone else, but risk to accomplish your goals, risk of pursuing your dreams. I wish I would have been more aggressive in the pursuit of those goals and in those dreams.
Now, you mentioned you have 3 daughters. I know you have a son as well.
Yep.
How's the relationship with mothers or mother?
Yeah.
How does that?
One baby mama.
One baby mama. Okay.
Right.
Now, how is that relationship and what's that like?
We co-parent.
Okay.
We co-parent pretty well.
Okay.
I'm more of the bad guy.
Oh, you?
She likes to be the good cop.
Okay.
But my children are. My son asked me the other day. He said, do you ever wake up and just feel like, man, I'm blessed to have them as children, have us as children? And I said, well, don't you ever wake up and feel like you're blessed to have me as a dad? But I can't complain.
Okay.
They've never been in any type of trouble.
Okay.
They embrace their privilege. My son considers himself the Prince of Peace.
Okay.
My daughters, they're entrepreneurial. My youngest daughter, I need to get her out here with you. She's the new anchor for Germantown High School TV.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a great program.
Yeah, I need to have her come out here and check you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in that co-parenting, what have you learned over the years? Because I'm sure you went from one moment being in the house together, now you're co-parenting. How has that helped you evolve as a man?
The most difficult period of my life, I would say, was when my ex-wife and I divorced, and she remarried and moved to California. I always thought that we were going to stay within 3 hours from each other so that we can, co-parent in an effective way.
Right.
But, God had different plans, and she moved to California. And so now it was cheaper for me to fly out to see them than it was for me to fly all 4 of them back to see me.
Right.
But it was very difficult, and my initial reaction was, let's lawyer up. We're going to court.
Right.
You're not taking these children to California. But my aunt, who I mentioned earlier, she told me, she said, let them go. She said, if they want to go, let them go, because you don't want them to resent you for keeping them here.
Great advice.
And she said they'll come back.
Right.
And they did, man. And so they got some life experiences. I got a chance to really put my head down and work because I didn't have the responsibility of day-to-day caretaking.
Right.
And I just started getting promoted and traveling the world and improving our livelihood and situation as a result of that, 3-year period that we had apart.
Greatest success in life. What would you say if you had to mark something as your greatest success? What would that be?
Man, my greatest success would probably be as a parent. I decided over 21 years ago to stop drinking. I don't drink. I haven't had alcohol. I don't smoke any of that.
Okay.
And that clarity and being sober really allowed me to take advantage of opportunities. It allowed me to avoid some of the pitfalls that can occur by drinking. And I realized how difficult it was for people to stop drinking.
Right.
I didn't consider myself an alcoholic, but in reality, I was drinking a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
In business, you tend to.
In business, you tend to. You tend to have a cocktail here, and you start to rearrange your diet based on what you're drinking that night.
Right.
I don't want to eat sweets right now because I know I'm gonna be drinking.
Right.
Did I just adjust my diet for alcohol? And so making that decision, and I made a vow to God that I was gonna stop and I was never gonna drink again. Oh. And
now that sounds like an experience happened right there.
Yeah.
What was that moment that made you go, nah, man, I can't do this no more? God, if you take this out of my mouth.
Yeah. I had an accident.
Oh.
I had an accident and it was 2 cars involved. So I'm driving, it's late at night, left a party, had probably 2-3 drinks. I mean, I was used to drinking way more than that.
Right.
But this car came over on me, and the fact that I had been drinking, now I'm in a situation where, man, am I about to go to jail? Am I about to do this? And that was just a scary period for me.
Right.
Thankfully, no one was hurt, nothing more than my pride.
Right.
And I just got serious about life after that. I saw how fragile life could be.
Right. And
I saw that it wasn't just me that I had put in jeopardy. It was my children. It was the other people in those cars as well. Right. And I just got a seriousness about myself. And it was easy for me to turn off.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up a couple words, and I want to get your immediate response. Fatherhood. What does fatherhood mean to you?
That's the best title I've ever been bestowed upon. Really? It means everything to me. It means that we can change the world by changing our relationship with our children. It starts at home. Right. And so it really has been the greatest reward that I've ever received, the greatest title that I've ever held, being a father. It's that important.
Entrepreneurship.
Opportunity. Okay. An opportunity to test yourself, an opportunity to be rewarded, to see what you're made of, right, and to leave a legacy. And so opportunity is what entrepreneurship provides.
Man, you led right into that last one, legacy.
Man, as the Bible says, we're supposed to leave an inheritance to our children's children. Okay. And so we have to put in some work, build up, nest eggs, and be able to pass it along so that our children don't have to start from the same position that we started, or God forbid, a position further back than what we started.
Right.
And so that's what legacy means to me.
If you could go back to South Memphis, Hamilton area. You're sitting there at the table on a Saturday morning, eating a bowl of cereal, watching cartoons. You walk in the door, the Ernest of today. What would you say to the young Ernest?
I'll say, get up. We're going to sign up for each and every program that we can find.
Okay.
If it's a program, if it's Boy Scouts, if it's a leadership, youth leadership, if it's an accelerated how-to, whatever the program is, we're going to sign up for it.
Why?
Because it gives you an opportunity to build social capital, to learn, to meet other people who are eager and moving in the right directions. And it gives you a chance to be seen by folks that can provide resources and support.
Mm-hmm. So there's many young boys watching you, listening to you right now. What would Ernest Strickland want to leave them with from this conversation? Look right in that camera and talk directly to them.
I would say to young guys, aim high. It sounds cliche-ish, but it really is important for us to have our sights on greater goals. We talk about Black excellence a lot, but really we practice Black basics too often. And so we need to, and you need to, set your sights high as you can. Don't worry about hitting the target. Just set your sights as high as you can. It's amazing what happens when your mind and your body start working towards a large goal. You know, if you fall short, you're still a success. And so don't aim low, aim high.
He who is not courageous enough to take risk will not accomplish anything in life. I think that's what Brother Ernest just said. Aim high, because you can be a success. I'm Larry Robinson. For my guest, Brother Ernest Strickland.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being a guest on the journey and sharing your journey. I told you, we're going to keep bringing them back, one after another. And only thing I ask you to do is you keep coming back so you can keep getting these great pearls of wisdom that you can use to further enhance your life. Once again, Larry Robinson for my guest, Ernest Strickland. Till the next time on The Journey. Thank you to our partners, the Delta Boulé and Tennessee Valley Authority. To hear more incredible stories like this, be sure to download the KUDZUKIAN app from the App Store or Google Play. Or check out the Journey Memphis podcast on all your major podcast providers. Also, check us out on the KUDZUKIAN Network.